duo caught running a drug planting scheme. In Staten Island, New York, two police officers named Kyle Erickson and Elmer Pastrana found themselves in a bit of a run-in with the law when it was discovered that they had planted marijuana on two separate occasions after pulling over cars for minor traffic violations. Their scheme involved stopping vehicles and claiming that the vehicles smelled like weed. The first incident that brought Erickson and Pastrana's conduct to public attention happened in February 2018 for a marijuana possession case involving a man named Lassou Kouyaté. During the trial, Erickson testified under oath that he found a marijuana cigarette on the backseat floor of Kouyaté's car. However, this testimony was contradicted by body camera footage.
Alright, this was in the back seat on the floor. It's a marijuana cigarette. It's lit. Just had to put it out.
When the video footage of the search was reviewed, it showed no sign of marijuana on the car's rear floor a number of times. In fact, it even captured Erickson telling Pastrana,
We had a fight. You know what I mean?
Right after these words, the officer's camera mysteriously went off. When the camera came back on after 4 minutes, Erickson was seen picking up a marijuana cigarette and announcing his alleged discovery in the back of the car, despite his partner's earlier statement that he didn't see anything there. As a result of this incident, Kouyaté ended up spending 2 weeks in jail before being released on bail. He decided to sue the city after his charges were dropped, and he was awarded a settlement of $326,000. But Erickson and Pastrana didn't stop there, as there was no accountability for these rogue cops. Less than 2 weeks after Kouyaté's arrest in March 2018, they pulled over another car and claimed to find marijuana and even cocaine. The man they arrested this time was Jason Serrano, who was sitting in the passenger seat of his friend's car. The officers claimed the car had a broken taillight, but as soon as the driver rolled down the window, Erickson and Pastrana declared that they smelled weed and ordered both occupants out of the car.
The car smells like marijuana, so we're gonna check it, all right? There's nothing in the car, you'll be good to go, all right?
The body camera footage of this incident revealed a troubling sequence of events. Serrano, who was recovering from abdominal surgery after being stabbed, showed his wound to Erickson while explaining that he could barely move.
I don't want to see that right now, okay?
I can barely move, bro.
Then the officers demanded to search Serrano's jacket, which he refused, insisting there was nothing incriminating inside. The officers quickly became aggressive, pushing the wounded to the ground and handcuffing him as he groaned in pain. As Serrano lay bleeding on the sidewalk, more officers and bystanders gathered, waiting for an ambulance. Meanwhile, Pastrana searched Serrano's jacket, and Erickson meticulously searched the car. Erickson could be heard saying his notorious line,
Yeah, we gotta find something.
Erickson used a flashlight to search around the front seat but found nothing. He grew frustrated and returned to Pastrana to suggest searching the entire car. Erickson returned to the front seat area, dropping a larger bud in the drink holder and declaring,
There's a little bit of weed.
He opened a wallet and searched areas he had already looked at. Later on, Erickson fiddled through Serrano's jacket again as Pastrana approached him.
Flakes everywhere, though.
Yeah, no, he had weed. You could see his weed here.
Throughout this process, Serrano was about to be taken away on a stretcher. Erickson asked Pastrana if he was good, and both officers fist-bumped each other at the end of their scheme. Interestingly, the few words exchanged between Erickson and Pastrana during Serrano's arrest mirrored their conversation during Kouyaté's arrest. At the time, Serrano was charged with drug possession, resisting arrest, and obstructing governmental administration. Months later, in a court decision in 2021, a Staten Island judge overturned Serrano's conviction after reviewing the body camera footage and the disciplinary records of the two officers. Those records revealed that Erickson had been disciplined by the NYPD in 2 separate incidents earlier that same year for invoice discrepancies related to drug seizures. Judge Tomiko Amaker noted that in normal circumstances, because of his guilty plea, Serrano would be unable to vacate his conviction. However, this court finds that the body-worn camera footage taken with the officer's disciplinary files demonstrate that the defendant may have been searched and seized in violation of his constitutional rights. Amaker wrote as she granted the motion to vacate Serrano's conviction. The NYPD has not yet responded to requests for comment about the status of the two officers on the force. Pastrana is listed in the department's personnel database as being on military or extended leave. Erickson's name, however, does not appear in the database. If you think this story was wild, wait till you hear our next one, where a single Florida cop was convicted for dozens of cases of planting drugs and falsifying evidence. Number 2. Florida cop gets caught planting drugs by his own body cam. A Florida sheriff's deputy named Zachary Wester was caught red-handed for planting drugs and was found guilty of various charges, including racketeering, fabricating evidence, official misconduct, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances and paraphernalia. But this wasn't the first time Wester found himself in trouble. He started his career in law enforcement back in 2015 by working as a deputy for the Liberty County Sheriff's Office. He left that job after less than a year due to allegations of sexual misconduct. However, Wester didn't let that stop him. In May 2016, he landed a job at the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, where he quickly gained a reputation as an aggressive patrol deputy with an impressive number of drug arrests under his belt. But as time went on, eyebrows were raised, and in the summer of 2018, prosecutors in Marianna eventually discovered inconsistencies in his police reports and body camera footage. One particular damning video showed him holding a plastic baggie before searching a woman's truck and arresting her for possessing methamphetamine. After an internal investigation, Wester was suspended and later fired from his position. During this time, a thorough search of his patrol car uncovered a stash of ready-to-plant drugs and paraphernalia hidden in the trunk. In 2019, he was finally arrested following an extensive investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. As a result of his crimes, nearly 120 cases involving Wester had to be dropped by prosecutors. The modus operandi for Wester was disturbingly consistent. He would initiate traffic stops for minor infractions and then use the pretext of smelling marijuana to search the victims' vehicles. He would then pretend to find drugs such as meth or marijuana, leading innocent people to end up in jail on bogus charges. The consequences for these victims were devastating, as their lives crumbled due to false accusations. One such victim, Stephen Van, a former felon who had recently been released from jail when he was pulled over by Wester. Van allowed the officer to search his vehicle, believing he had nothing to hide. But to his surprise, Wester discovered methamphetamine in his car.
Okay, all right. Honesty's gonna go a long way with me, okay, man?
Yeah.
All right,
What?
I've got to test this. Have you ever seen this before?
No.
After Wester was done performing the tests on the discovered drugs in Van's car, he came to talk to the poor man again and subsequently arrested him.
All right, look, man. It did field test presumptive positive for methamphetamine. Okay? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If I read you your rights, will you talk to me?
But the damning evidence against Wester came from his own body camera footage, and this truly came to the fore in the case of Teresa Odom. Like all of his victims, Wester pulled over Odom for a routine traffic stop. In the beginning, the officer came off as a bit friendly with Odom, even joking with her a little bit. He then asked her to step out of the car to perform his checks, to which she complied, saying she had nothing to hide. As she walked away from the vehicle, the deputy prepared to search it. Wester began putting on his gloves, and for a brief moment, a small bag was visible in his left hand. Prosecutors believe this was the bag Wester planted and claimed to have found next to a spoon in the car. Despite his denial of planting any illegal substances, the evidence strongly pointed in the other direction. To get back at the system for the harm caused by Wester, the victims came together and reached a nearly $1 million federal court settlement. Over 30 victims who were arrested by Wester and later filed a suit agreed to the settlement, which was finalized in October 2022 in the U.S. District Court in Pensacola. The settlement conference was presided over by U.S. Magistrate Judges Hope Cannon and Michael Frank. The amount awarded to each plaintiff varied depending on the damages they suffered, ranging from just under $20,000 to more than $70,000. Among the victims, Benjamin Bowling faced the tragic consequences of losing custody of his daughter due to Wester's arrest. Plaintiffs like Bowling received the highest amounts in the settlement. The Sheriff's Office and the Florida Sheriff's Risk Management Fund will cover the settlement. Meanwhile, Wester himself is currently serving a 12.5-year prison sentence for his despicable actions. If you want to keep up with the latest updates and news on these cases, then please subscribe to the channel.